The gap between girls and boys was significant. It was about 20% in its worst year, and it was typically about 10% on the old measure of English and maths at GCSE. Last year, we didn't have a gap at all. In fact, our boys were slightly ahead of the girls. My name's Dominic Burke. I'm the head of Balcarras School in Charlton Kings in Cheltenham. We are a co-educational, comprehensive school, 11 to 18. We've got about 1,380 children on the roll, and we're about 50-50 girls and boys. We go from the age of 11 to 18, about 1,000 children in the lower school, and about 380, 400 thereabouts in the sixth form. We serve an area of low economic deprivation on the east side of Cheltenham. Cheltenham itself is a more deprived town than you might imagine. Balcarras serves a relatively low deprived. Our pupil premium is fluctuates between 8 and 10%, something like that. I've been at the school since 2007. I became head in 2016. When I joined the school in 2007, it was a high achieving comprehensive school, but it did have a significant gap between girls and boys at GCSE, a smaller gap at A-level. The gap between girls and boys was significant. It was about 20% in its worst year, and it was typically about 10% on the old measure of English and maths at GCSE. Last year, we didn't have a gap at all. In fact, our boys were slightly ahead of the girls. And we wondered, we do wonder whether the pandemic has something to do with that. But we do believe it's good evidence of all of the strategies we've put in place over the last 10 years to narrow the gap. It was already very, very close before the pandemic. We got it to about 2% between girls and boys. And now we see, in fact, the boys slightly ahead of the girls. But the girls are still achieving really well. So our Progress 8 score for all children last year was plus 0.68. The last year before that was valid was plus 0.83. So we are one of the highest achieving comprehensive schools in the southwest of England, and we're proud of that. We're proud of the job we do for the children who come to the school. When Mike contacted me, I was dead up front and I said, I don't now perceive it to be a big issue. So it's still mentioned in our school development plan, but we don't take anything for granted, but it's not the number one issue on my list. I understand it is for you in your committee because it's what you're looking at, and I know that there's a gap nationally. For us, we don't feel that it is now a massive problem in this school, but we don't take anything for granted. I just wanted to very briefly tell you what we've done as a school and how we think we've achieved what we have achieved. A part of it we believe is a long period of work. You know, it's sort of a decade or more in the making across two heads. And with boys, we deliberately set out to change the culture around boys' behaviour in the school, boys' learning, and boys' aspirations. And we knew that wasn't an overnight job, and I don't believe it is an overnight job. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean you shouldn't start and there are things you can do. Of course there are, but I think culture is built over many years. I often say to children in the school, how you behave now and how you interact with your teachers will affect how the next generation do it, because we pass the school on to each generation. So building a culture over time, I think, is as important as some of the more sort of short-term fixes we've tried over the years. And I think that business about culture over time, this might sound a controversial thing to say, but I do think it's really important that you've got male role models in the school, in a secondary context. And I think maintaining a balance of the staffing of the school, you know, really you want it to be 50-50. You want to ensure that there are positive female role models in the school, positive male role models in the school. I think that's really important. And the other thing that we've always believed in here, and this is for girls and boys, but it was particularly important, we think, in changing the culture around boys learning, is to put right at the front, to put the positive role models, and by that I mean the students, right at the front, and to celebrate them, and to make being celebrated and to make doing well the sort of norm, that was the kind of cool thing to do in a way. And we genuinely believe over 10, 15 years that we have created that culture where I was at our dance fest the other night, loads of boys involved. And some just because they want to be involved, not because they're particularly dancers or anything like that. It's cool to be involved. And they're the kids who lead the school, if you like. They're the leadership, the role models, the people who are going to be in the school production, the people who are performing, the people who join our sports teams and things like that. So I think doing everything you can to promote those positive role models in the school, and in a way to sort of to allow the less positive role models to be marginalized. And I don't want that to sound harsh, but what you don't want is a culture where sort of anti-school kind of culture that becomes the sort of almost like a leadership group around the school. It must be seen, I think, to be a minority position that. And I'm not saying for a minute that we don't try our best for children who, for whatever reason, are not positive about school. We do. And part of the success is, I think, the thing that a school needs to do is find everybody's hook, because everybody's got one. And this is true of girls and boys, but it's particularly true of disaffected boys, I think. And schools, and I know up and down the country, schools are good at doing this. They're trying to find that way. Sport is often, I know it sounds stereotypical, but we've had a few real success stories over the years of keeping kids going via sport, via organised sport that they're dead keen on. Again, it might sound counterintuitive, but drama is a key way where we've kept a lot of boys really engaged in their education, that was the area where they could express themselves and were praised for doing so and praised to be positive. So I think there's a piece around the sort of general culture in the school that the leadership of the school over a long time has encouraged. The reason why I was worried about being late was I just dashed right from the back of the school, because we've had a team photograph of all of the kids who've been involved in sport this year, anybody who's represented the school, in front of all the trophies we've won. We've won so much stuff this year, it's unbelievable. And there must be, I don't know, 350 kids in this photograph, and as many boys as girls, so that's what you want to do. You want any opportunity you've got to be positive, to set the culture right, then you should do it. What we did around 2010, 2011, I would have been assistant head at the time, and we had a new deputy come in from another school, and he felt that the way to really up the performance of boys in the school was to be dead up front with them. So to get them together and to say, you're en masse, you're all going to underachieve. Now, obviously, some of you won't, but en masse you will. The girls are going to beat your hands down. And they showed them the evidence. This is what happened last year. There's a 15% gap between girls and boys in the school. And we showed them the ability profile of the school, and it's always dead heat. The ability profile is always like that. It's within 0.1 or 0.2 of each other. The girls and the boys come into the school with the same ability, more or less. So we show them that, and then we say, but the girls are going to do this and you're going to do this. And we challenge you to be the first year group to stop that. And we called it the effort challenge. So we had a challenge for girls, which was much more about, not about effort, but about aspirations. And the boys' challenge was purely about effort. So we said, we're going to monitor your effort. And this is through year 11 of GCSE. We're going to monitor your effort. And in every subject, we're just going to tell you every 2 weeks whether it's good enough or not. And if it's not good enough, you'll need to do something about it. And we celebrated the kids for whom the effort was good enough. And we sort of deliberately kind of, put on show kids who needed to up their effort. And in each year group, we had some kids who had positive role models, but were sort of positive, but also kind of well respected amongst the boys in the year group. We had them as effort captains, and it was their job to go and G up the kids across the school. And in those years, and I'm going back some time now, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, there was a real shift in boys' achievement. And then we kept it going during my headship. But the gap had got so close then, so we equalized it at that point, and we called it the year 11 challenge instead. And now it's a little bit different to how it used to be. And the reason why we've changed it is that in actual fact, we'd be lying now if we said you boys are going to be beaten by the girls, because they're not. They're actually now, well, in fact, they won last year in most measures. So that's just a little bit about how we've done it. And I think the business about culture is the most important thing. How schools, I think that effort challenge in its day was quite effective, because it allowed us to just hit the problem head on. And you did see the gap narrow every year as we did that. I'll take any questions. I mean, if anybody's got any questions or.
Thanks very much. Very interesting to hear about your school. It's absolutely wonderful. I have a question related to guidance and career guidance in your school. And just very briefly, what kind of engagement do you have from your male and female, boys and girls students with the guidance? And do you think that it takes a different view? Do the guidance teachers, do they have a different approach to the way they deal with boys and girls regarding, for example, where they'll go afterwards to a college or to a university or into employment or an apprenticeship? I just wondered about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is a good question. The first thing I'd say about it is that the most important thing to do right from the word go is get a sense of enjoyment around school. So we had our taster day a week ago for year 6 kids coming into the school next year. We just do one day. I mean, some schools would do 5 days or longer. We just do one day and we just make it fun. So we just want to get them in, have fun. And the same when they join the year 7, we're not obsessing about setting. We do set in maths. But let's just get the kids into the school and let's let them enjoy the experience of being in a secondary school with all the opportunities that creates. And then let's be positive about all of the the wonderful things that young people have got to look forward to in terms of the career opportunities, and have a really vibrant careers program right from the word go that exposes them to all sorts of different things, and be dead positive and be. I mean, we're sometimes we are sometimes accused of, oh well. You're only interested in UCAS type thing, and I can promise you it's not true. We are obviously interested in supporting the kids who want to go to Oxbridge or Russell Group universities, but right from the word go, saying, look, we've got no predetermined view of what your life looks like. You've got to discover it, but you've got one life, and you'd be better off making the most of it and looking at all these opportunities. So having a sort of a vibrant careers program. And we're very fortunate here. We've got, again, somebody long-standing member staff who's been here for a long time, who runs careers in the school, and he's always looking to try and improve it.
Can I ask you to just expand a bit on what you do about literacy? One of the things that is coming up as an idea is that one of the reasons why boys do less well secondary school is they come in with poorer literacy skills. Do you intervene? Do you kind of assess pupils and then intervene early on, or not specifically?
Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, so we do our own baseline tests when they come in. So we do use national curriculum testing. So we use the Key Stage 2 data that's given to us from primary schools. The vast majority of our kids come in from state primary schools. There are some that come in from private schools or from abroad or whatever, but most people have data, and we do use that. But we do our own data, and we do that at the start of year 7, at the end of year 7. And so we then would intervene with children who are below the average age for reading, and we extract them from languages. And once they get into year 8, we extract them from the second language. So in year 8, every child in the school would study French and Russian or Spanish. And we would take them out of French at that point. So I can speak with some knowledge here because my son's one of them. So he's in year 9, and he's never done French. He does literacy support and numeracy support, and he does do Spanish. So we went to Spain last summer, and I said, well, you've got to do the talking, but I didn't actually get much out of him. So we use languages that way, because the thing is about languages, I mean, we're dead keen on languages, and 60 to 70% of our kids would choose a language at GCSE. But languages is not for everybody. I think the government target of 90%, it is too much. That wouldn't be a good idea, even in a high achieving comprehensive school like this one. So we use languages lessons for literacy support.
That's great. Last question is from Mark Brooks.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question. There's been a big move in the last couple of years to bring in outside organisations to talk about toxic masculinity and how boys should behave and how boys should be boys, etc. Do you bring those sorts of organisations in, and what's your view of those type of initiatives anyway?
Yeah, we don't. We have talked about this issue, and we had a we set up a broad committee right across the school of I was on it, all the senior staff, the pastoral staff, and interested colleagues, and we did grapple with this issue around how to tackle it, and we decided that it'd be best to tackle it ourselves. Sometimes we do run our personal development. The way we run it is that we do bring outside speakers in, and sometimes it's really useful, particularly on things like drugs and alcohol misuse, because with the best will in the world, you know, I don't know, 46-year-old bloke like me in a suit talking about drugs is probably not going to hit home. But I think on this issue, you know, we have grappled with it and we tackle it head on, and we have had incidents, you know, really things that you absolutely have to tackle, and it's best to be tackled head on. But I personally have got I think you've got to be dead careful around, and this is one thing with the effort challenge, you know, at the time, you know, we were a little bit edgy about it because we were getting together a group of kids and saying, well, you're here because you are boys. And now maybe we got away with that and maybe it was the right thing to do. I don't know. But I think on this issue, I think you've got to be dead careful because, you know, you don't want to sort of, I've never ever in my headship, I've never ever said a negative message to a group of kids. I've never ever gone in and said anything, you lot are better. You know, I'd only ever do that to an individual or a select group of children who needed to hear that message. And I think you've got to be very careful, I think, about how that message is received, who's giving the message, and exactly what you're trying to achieve. What you've got to do is model a culture of respect from day one, and the school itself has got to live that day in, day out, and that's got to be the experience. And you have got to make, I mean, goodness knows, we deal with children for whom, you know, it's learned behavior, get attitudes from home that you think this is appalling, and you've got to deal with that. But I think you deal with that by getting the culture right and by dealing with the individual issues of that, rather than, oh, well, you're a group of boys and there's a good chance that there's some toxic masculinity going on in this room. I just think it's a bit dangerous.